with concerns mounting over the company's competitive edge in the weight loss drug space. For more, Mizuho healthcare strategist Holz joins us here on set. Jared, great to have you with us. It's like CagriSema happened, the second phase of CagriSema. Every single headline in the obesity space, even if it's not Novo, it's bad for Novo. If the sentiment is so terrible, is the stock where it should be right now, or is it overdone?
It's been horrifying to watch it. It's basically been cut in half since last summer, right? They had that big analyst day. They excited the street, and now we're sitting here at multi-year lows. So it feels fair and not fair. I mean, the news flow out of the company and out of the field has impacted it dramatically. So in some respect, yes, but they're still going to grow 15 to 20% this year, and it's a growth entity for the next few. So when you compare it to some of the other names in pharma, it's amazing that, I was talking to some investors today. I think the sentiment on Novo is the worst in all of large cap pharma.
Wow.
Yeah.
You bought some today.
I did. Yeah. I bought some today. I mean, I had owned it a couple of years before, sold it too early, and I thought, oh, wait, one day I'll get back in. When you think about the next few years, like this Roche thing, they're talking about 2029 at the earliest, right? So when you think about the profitability that's available potentially for Novo between here and there, at least, how far does that get you?
They can go for the next 5+ years without really doing much, right? They're going to be the market leader. It's I still believe it's a two-player market in this injectable market for the foreseeable future, if for no other reason than the cost that you have to kind of take in order to be in it, the manufacturing spend, all of those things. It's interesting because this CagriSema data, the street wasn't that excited about. Yet they're excited about this Roche plus Zealand asset, which is essentially the same thing as CagriSema, but investors like it. So I think we've gone so far in terms of the pendulum swinging out of their favor that maybe you're right, Karen, it's time to buy a little bit.
Well, that news was interesting, and it brings me back to Viking, which, as I said last night, that move, I thought the stock would double from 50. I looked really smart for a while. Now I look really dumb, which is typical. But here we are with the stock. There's scarcity in the space in terms of assets. Yesterday's news, people suggest, maybe they're going to go it alone. Mel read it differently. Karen read it differently. How do you read it?
I don't think it really changes anything. I think if you are a publicly traded company, you've got to do things that essentially allow you to keep on going as an independent entity. And so they could get acquired tomorrow. I don't think anyone would be ultimately surprised. I mean, there's this whole thought around Wall Street that the competitive dynamic and, there's so many assets in China. Why would you buy Viking when you can buy things cheaper? But the market caps have gotten obliterated. This and Structure and a few others are trading where no one thought they would because the barriers to entry seem minimal. But I kind of like it here. I mean, I haven't been the biggest bull on Viking nor Structure in a while, but now with the equity values where they are, you've got to take a look. I mean, these could be swiped up for a couple $2 billion. Even if it winds up not being great for pharma, that's a small write-off.
When you say it might be time to buy Novo, is that a pound the table? This is a point in time where we're going to look back and we're going to think, wow, you could have bought this name at 18 times or so for where it is in terms of being a market leader in the obesity space for the next 3, 4, 5 years? Or are we going to say, you know what, the sentiment is so bad, and you know what, Eli Lilly is going to have a headline on its oral, and that's going to drive Novo even lower?
Take your time, because we're going to replay this.
Okay.
When you're right or wrong.
It's not a pound the table. I think it's more of a trade. I don't think there's anything pound the table like in large cap pharma, sadly. I think most of these are, sentiment or valuation calls for the most part. The thing that bothers me about Novo is essentially what happened to Moderna. Even though they're not analogous. Moderna, $500 stock a few years ago, everything was going right. They didn't do anything. They basically watched the world end out of their favor, and they could have done a lot in terms of strategic, development and buying assets and really, milking it. They did not. They stood still, and that's kind of what Novo has done here. So, in part,
you're making the analogy with Moderna. Wow.
Yes, I mean,
that's a real indictment.
Versus where the stock was a year ago, they've essentially watched the entire world shift. So many different things have happened in terms of this category since that time over the last 12 months, whether it be other competitive data sets or different assets that have popped up or different deals that pharma companies have done, they've essentially stood still. So I think it's unfair to put them in the same category, but it reminds me of Moderna during the height of COVID when they were kings and they essentially let it slip all away. And here we are at $35 a share versus $500. So it's just it is reminiscent in a way.